You've very kindly been sending in lovely pictures of your babies. We have an email from Jane Street with little Stanley, who's 5 weeks old. Look at him, he's a very stylish chap. I like his hat. And Michelle has sent a baby, Jessica, who's 4 days old. Look at that, how gorgeous. Am I broody? I might be. And this is from Lorraine Ward with a tweet with her baby, Phoebe, who was born 4 weeks early. She looks like she's got a good grin on her as well. And we've got loads of emails for Jo as well. She's going to talk babies. We're going to start off by talking about being new to parenthood and the big shocks that, you know, no matter how much you read in the books, that first baby, nobody can really prepare you for the massive changes to you, your body, your lifestyle, your relationship.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Nobody can prepare you, but then you're expected to know. It's like the motherly instincts and the pressure, I think, that parents are put under, new parents, to know everything. You know, the baby's cry, what it means and how to respond to it, and to, you know, obviously get how your baby gets sleeping through the night, how to feed. I remember one mum called me and she's like, when am I supposed to feed my baby? I don't know when I'm supposed to feed my baby. And it's just the whole pressures that everyone's put under and you're supposed to know. And a lot of mums don't know, and I think that's a myth that needs to be kind of quashed, because mums and dads don't know, if they're a first-time parent, what they're supposed to do with this little person. You know, you have all the support for pregnancy, for the labour, for the birth, everything, and then all of a sudden you're handed this little parcel and waved on your way.
Women generally naturally want to make is how the baby sleeps, and but the first headlines we're going to look at is about babies being under more pressure, according to some research, when they sleep alone. And the study was saying there are lots of other factors that come into later life about development as well, and that this is advocating that they should be staying in the mum's bed until 3, which is just the absolute opposite of what I had been led to believe.
It is. I mean, you know, obviously the SIDS guidelines that you don't have your baby sleeping in bed with you if you've taken drugs, alcohol, you smoke, or if you're tired. Now, you tell me any parent that isn't tired, any new parent that isn't tired, there isn't one, I can't even think. So, to be able to say stay in your bed with your baby until they're 3. And I've just been to see a little girl. She's 5 months old, Ella, and her mum and dad were sleeping in bed with her, she was sleeping in bed with them, and they weren't getting any sleep. They were having 2 hours, if that, because she was moving around, she was pulling their hair, she was poking them, and then nobody was getting any sleep. And that's the thing, is I think babies sometimes actually want their own space, and they're a lot happier and more settled if they're in their own space. And of course, you know, you worry about suffocating them, lying on top of them. And of course, it's, you know, it's really quite dangerous to do that.
When you read, though, in this report and the article that followed, that brain development could be damaged by nightly separation, I mean, that's really playing on new parents' anxiety, isn't it?
It's disgusting, that.
It is. Yeah. I mean, it's not fair. And, you know, if you actually read the article, it was only 9 babies. 9 babies.
That's not exactly classed as clinical research, is it?
No, exactly.
Let's have an email from Kirsty. It's not our Kirsty from The Right Stuff. I'm a first-time mum, definitely not. I have a beautiful 5-month-old who started waking up every hour after 12 o'clock for her 12 o'clock midnight, I'm assuming, for her dummy. And then at 4 a.m. wants to get up. She goes to bed at 7 p.m, has naps during the day, never wakes for her dummy in the daytime. Is this a phase? Do you have any tips as how I can help her get back to sleep? Because I'm very tired.
I bet she is. Poor Kirsty. What happens is I get a lot of phone calls at 5 months old, because usually around 4 or 5 months old is when baby starts, the sucking reflex starts diminishing. So they don't actually need the dummy. So if you keep giving them the dummy, it starts becoming a habit. And they start waking more because, of course, they're starting to get into the weaning phase as well. So they start becoming a little bit more hungry. So once you start thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to start giving this baby the dummy, they start then getting used to it. And then what will happen is each light sleep in the middle of the night, she will expect that dummy or something, that one thing, to go back to sleep. So obviously she's got the dummy, it can be feeding, it can be rocking. So she wants that one thing. And she'll get it and she'll go back to sleep. But then, of course, you're creating habits. So you're actually saying to her, no, you need the dummy, darling, you need the dummy, you need the dummy. And then it will just continue. So the best thing to do is just take the dummy away and go cold turkey on the dummy. And I usually get something like a comforter, like a muslin square, just knotted up so that they can hold something, so that it's a comforter rather than giving the dummy, so that they can obviously start self-soothing themselves, because it will get worse. It will be, you know, sort of 9-10 times a night.
Sack the dummy. Sack the dummy.
It's hard work having a dummy and trying to get rid.
Did you go there with the dummy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First time round we did, but then we just did cold turkey on the dummy front, and he started sleeping through the night after that. With Scarlett, it's been a similar situation. She's had it a little bit longer, but it's just recently we've sacked the dummy. And, you know, she does get a full night's sleep, but you become a slave to it, don't you? Because you've got to get up multiple times in the night. So we're finding the dummy in the dark, and it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yes, I've had mums, you know, kind of having all the way around the cot, the dummy, so that at least one, they can grab one in the night.
Yeah.
I think my daughter just liked to hold them like maracas, and she just kind of had them in her hand. When I tell her now, she laughs, But I actually found it a lot easier than I thought to take the dummies. I was panicking because they only ever had them at night, and I was panicking about what would happen. We had one night where they were a bit uncomfortable, not uncomfortable, they were a bit, kind of crying, and then that was it,
Yeah,
So I think sometimes it's the fear of doing something, then,
Yeah.
Let's have a little look at another story, breastfeeding. Oh, there's always a headline about breastfeeding, isn't there? Another study saying breastfed babies are smarter, they get a better chance in life, they are much more likely, if you're from, there's a huge social gap, if you're from, obviously, a middle-class privileged background, you're much more likely to breastfeed than underprivileged sections of society. And obviously the encouragement is all there from the health services to try and get women breastfeeding. I mean, this is real data, isn't it? Definitely there is a link between the way that children fight diseases, but if you can't do it, again, it's playing, it's the anxiety.
There's a lot of pressure on women as well to breastfeed, I think, and I think women are made to feel guilty with newborns. If the baby isn't latching on or whatever, there's not enough milk is being produced or whatever, and the baby's hungry. And I think there's this awful pressure, and it just diminishes the woman, I think. And I've seen it happen with my wife, and you're in a panic about, is the child getting enough to eat? And I just think that sometimes, a lot of our friends who've got newborn babies, we've just sort of said, look, if it ain't sort of working in the right way, just go on the bottle. It's like, but you're made to feel like a criminal almost, if you don't breastfeed.
It is. It's the pressures, isn't it? The pressures that, to be a good mother, you have to breastfeed. But I think it goes back to basics because, if you're in hospital, and of course, England has got the one of the worst rates for, breastfeeding in the world. And that's because I just think that when you have your baby, you get out of hospital as soon as possible. Whereas in New Zealand and Australia, where the rates are absolutely massive, 83% of babies are breastfed and continue to be breastfed. And that's because they stay in the hospital for the first 3 days until the milk's come in and the breastfeeding is established. And then they teach them and they support you all the way through.
That's definitely not one of those things that, it doesn't come naturally. You can learn it though.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, when we move on from breast milk and teething starts, this email here from, I appreciate this completely, it's from a mum of twins. Ethan and Kira are 8 months old and they're teething, and she's been advised to soothe them in their cots when they wake in the night instead of picking them up.
Yeah.
Oh, there they are, look, they're gorgeous. And the problem is that they share a room at the moment, so when one starts crying, the other one wakes up, and they end up staying up all night. So we both work full time, we're continually worn out. I mean, when that happened with us, that's when I dragged my daughter's cot out into the spare room, and and that's where she stayed. It became her room because it's so frustrating. We've got twins to wake one up.
Yes. I mean, that is difficult with twins, isn't it? There is a myth that one twin wakes the other one up, and I think it's just the same as everything else. If you live under a flight path, you completely zone out the planes coming over, and it's the same with twins. If one twin cries and then you grab them away, they never get used to that cry. I do advocate trying to settle them in the cot because I think there's nothing worse than trying to get them out, shush them, and then put them back in because they've got to go back in, and then they get really cross. But I think if they're not well and if they're teething, then they need a little bit of cuddles. And also, if you've got to give them some medicine, there's nothing worse than trying to faff around in the middle of the cot in the middle of the night trying to give
spilling medicine, clean sheets,
exactly. So sort of picking them up, giving them the medicine, giving them a bit of a cuddle and calming them down, and then they're more likely to go back to sleep because they're nice and calm then. But I just think if it's a slight phase of whether they're poorly or they're teething, put the other one in another room. If you have got the room, to let them get through that phase, because that's the whole thing. Don't worry because it's a phase. They're not going to be teething forever. It's like a week of horribleness and then it's okay. And if you keep going with the soothing and making sure that they're in the cot and they can settle themselves when they're poorly and when they're teething, then they will continue sleeping because they don't know anything different. It's just a bit more cuddles and sorting it out with the medicine and
Jo, sadly your time's up. Jez, all your questions answered? Is there anything else
I've got a million questions.
Maybe you need to
do it off.
I'll tell you a number.
Apparently we'll go.
Are you expensive? Or is it a freebie because I'm on the telly?
We'll sort something out, I'm sure.
You really did sound like Robbie Williams then. Well, you two can chat further in the break, okay? And come back soon, Jo.
Thank you very much.
Always very popular. Thank you very much.